What's going on, Existence Church? Hey, we are doing our first quarter in review for the year 2010, and we have had an awesome start to the year. We were able to start this year out with our new facility, both our auditorium and our children's facility, which allowed us to double our auditorium space and triple our children's space. And the reason that we do these quarter in review is really because we think it is vital and important that we as a church continue to move forward. We think one of the worst things we can do as a church is stay stagnant and not move forward. And God has given us a very clear vision of being an inclusive missional community. And so at the end of each quarter, we look back and say, how did we do as a church at moving forward, at being inclusive, at being missional, and being community? So let me real quick give you some updates on how we did and give you then a few other updates at the end. So first thing on being inclusive, we had an awesome first quarter. We redid our Facebook page, which was really cool. It allowed people to explore a lot more about our church on Facebook. We've got almost 600 friends. Last week, we had 800 people view our page, which is amazing. So we really want to encourage you to continue to invite people to be on our Facebook friend. We had our Soup Bowl. We had 150 players. About 50 of those were non-church people that we included to be a part of that. We did our art show, had about 600 people. Many of those that were not part of this church, which is exactly why we do things like that. We saw 30 people roughly make a decision to follow Jesus already this year. We're going to baptize a bunch of them on Sunday, which is really, really exciting. And then we handed out literally thousands of invite cards and street signs. And so over the last 90 days, we have done some very specific and far-reaching things to be inclusive. And so way to go on being inclusive, church. Let's keep doing it. Another area of our vision that's super important to us is missional. And we believe that God has called us to not just fight for these four walls, but fight outside of there. And so we did some awesome things over the last 90 days to be missional. The most recent one is we brought in over 700 care packages for homeless people, which, man, that is about as cool as it gets. And so we are really proud to be a part of a church that's doing that. We served reality changers. We raised money to feed dozens and dozens of families in Haiti. We served with Feed America and put together 10,000 pounds of food. We launched our children's sponsorship program, which if you have not been to church recently, or if you haven't noticed, over by our bathrooms, there's some signs where you can see and go to Existence Missions, and you can support children in both Haiti and Nicaragua. And in our coffee house, we changed all of our coffee over to Foundation for Women, so that all of the coffee that we buy goes to helping give microloans to women in San Diego. So we made sure that every element of our church, from coffee to the extra things we get involved in, to our life groups, are getting involved in missional living. That was just over the last 90 days. The final area of our vision that we fight for is community. And if we're not a family and if we're not fighting together, then this whole thing falls apart. This is the inside of these four walls that we fight for. So here's some of the things that we've done. We hosted, again, our 101 class and saw an additional 30 people go through and hear more about our church. We hosted a leadership training for our inclusive missional and community leaders, which is about 80 leaders strong now. We had a Dr. Jerry night on parenting. We had 3 new life groups start, so we have a total of 28 life groups now that function inside of this community, which is awesome. We had a volunteer appreciation night in which we as a staff and leadership team got to say, thank you for serving this community. It takes over 150 volunteers week in and week out for this church to function at the level and the way that it does. And so we were able to, as a community, stop and thank you for that. The final 2 areas that are really important to us here at this church are children and, of course, our budget, what it takes to run this church. On the children's levels, we're having 40 kids come to our church week in and week out. And that might not sound like much, but just about 1.5 to 2 years ago, we had about 7. And so we have seen just incredible growth in our children's ministry. They're starting to fill out that space next door, which is awesome. On top of that, we hosted a Mom's Life, which there was 27 kids and moms that came and hung out. And this one's really, really awesome, I think. Our children did their first missional project, which was 35 moms and dads and kids got together and did missional projects together, which I think is just absolutely what we're about. The final area of our church is our budget. And this is really, really cool. We have actually had the best financial start in our church's history, which I think is so cool. Now, we're behind budget because we set a really pretty strong, audacious budget for our new facilities and the work that we feel like God's called us to do. but we trust we're going to catch up with that. But really what it comes down to is that men and women are being faithful. We're having our best start to the year. Our church is growing. We are being inclusive missional community, and the first 90 days of this year have been a huge home run. Way to go. Let's keep being the church. Let's not be stagnant. Let's advance the kingdom. And if you're not involved, if you're not being inclusive, if you're not being missional, if you're not being community, I promise you, you're missing out. So get involved. Love you guys. Let's keep growing and building. Talk to you soon.